you have the guts to seriously consider cuts to public safety budgets. For example, the city manager's proposal to cut $500,000 by without laying off any fire personnel by reducing overtime. Will you support restoring immediately library hours at the Civic Center and Orange Avenue branches to reopen them on Sundays and extend their hours till 8 p.m.? You probably can answer both those in one.
Yeah, I believe I have the guts to take any action that's really, truly necessary in terms of budget cuts. And the library hours, the fact that they have been diminished and speaks really volumes about the quality of life in our city. And I believe the 10% across the board cuts affected different departments and services disproportionately. Library, parks and rec centers, youth and senior programs, these services took a big hit. And I think that they should have been looked at more individually, not just across the board percentage type cuts. I don't think that was sensitive to the needs of the various departments. I'd like to see more cuts, for example, in the city attorney's budget and various upper management budgets before cutting libraries or safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Aguilar. I'm sorry, Ms. Aguilar, yes.
On the budget crisis, first let me say this. We didn't have to get into this budget crisis. In my view, the budget has not been appropriately managed. Chula Vista is in too much debt and our reserves are too thin. And those who have been guiding the city budget, in my view, have not been doing a good job, as we all have to do with our family budgets, and make sure we have enough in the bank for reserves and not get ourselves into too much debt. All budgets need to be prioritized. Citizens' health and safety is the first priority of the city council. And so it's important that we maintain those services. However, any fat in those services should be cut out, and we should look at that. So the answer is fire and public safety and police come first, but if there's fat in their budget, and I think there may be some, that should be cut.
Thank you, Mr. Castaneda.
The fact is that the city charter of the city of Chula Vista requires the city manager to write a budget and submit it to the city council. Now, we have had a situation where the manager has been going in, talking to his department heads, developing lists of cuts, and then providing them to the city council to vote on each and one of these cuts. Make no mistake, these are the city manager's cuts. These are not the city council's cuts. And what I've said privately to him and what I've said publicly is that, Mr. City Manager, if you're going to require the city council to write the budget for you, let us write the budget for you. We don't need to cut police. We don't need to cut fire. And I agree with Ms. Aguilar in that there are things that are embedded in some public safety departments that probably need to be looked at and scaled back. I mean, we have a jail right now, a city jail, that we don't know whether we're losing money or not because the numbers are very fuzzy. But the fact is that there is all kinds of things, there are all kinds of things in the city, in City Hall that can be cut, and we can restore those services that are important to the people of Chula Vista.
Ms. Moriarty.
We need to keep our fire and our police department. I agree that there's probably some fat that needs to be cut, but I really feel like there are priorities. And I think if you talk to the average citizen in Chula Vista who's tried to call the police department recently or the fire department, they're not always very happy at the response time. So I really think we need to protect these services, and I'd have the guts to protect these services. I think it's very sad and very difficult to have to cut library hours. My daughter lives in the library, and I hate to see that happen, but we have to weigh what we can do, and we only have so much money, and like I said earlier, we have to live within a budget. So how we got here is insignificant right now. It's how are we going to go on from here, and how are we going to have the services that we need for the city. And I would be against cutting the police and the fire, except for maybe some management jobs or issues like that. But the folks on the ground need to stay on the ground and respond quickly to our needs.
Thank you. Mr. Vincent.
as the economy changes, obviously, the cutting of firemen and policemen off the streets is a bad thing to do. As people lose their jobs, crime increases, and so does fire issues, so does emergency issues. So cutting the feet off the street, police and fire is a bad thing. However, when you look at the budget and you see that we've got approximately 1,100 city employees, and middle and upper management accounts for about 200 or more of those employees. That's a 1 in 5 management. Now in my company, I'm a 1 in 50 management. When I was in the Navy back in the 70s, it was 1 in 20 management, and the Marine Corps used to laugh at us because they had a 1 in 80 management. I think we're overstaffed with management personnel, and that is one of the big problems with our city budget.